Hello there and welcome back to my YouTube channel. James here as ever for another important ACCA video, especially if you've got your upcoming financial management or F9 paper, where in today's video I'm going to take you through the key syllabus areas that you need to be aware of ahead of your examination. And for a lovely little bonus, I've put on the end some lovely ACCA financial management exam tips that I'd be implementing myself as a qualified member from the UK if I had to sit the exam next week, next month, whatever it may be. As I said, my name is James. I'm an ACCA qualified member from the UK, and on my channel I help out students across the world pass their upcoming ACCA exams, and it's all completely 100% student-led. Because if this is the first time you've been to my channel, then you're not aware that I give shout outs and I do other things on social media, because this has caused quite a stir. Now, financial management, I'll put it up here, getting better with the editing. I put a poll out with, should we do financial management? Should we do financial reporting? Well, it was close. It was close. And as Shuru has messaged me, she really wanted some financial management. So Shuru, today's video is dedicated to you, my friend. Do not worry about that. Also, for my lovely subscribers, so feel free to subscribe to get access to all my free materials. Militia, I saw your comment, and I'm replying to all of them. So if you've got any other requests, leave me a comment below. Militia has put, "Hi James, can you do a similar video for F9 financial management as well, please?" Thank you very much. Militia, I've got you covered on this. These are the key areas that you need to be aware of. I'm going to walk and talk you through. Get your pen and paper ready, take down some notes, and if you implement these along with all of your question practice, it is going to help you pass. If you are new to my channel, as I said, feel free to subscribe. The button will be at the bottom, along with all the recommended financial management texts that I'd be purchasing in order to actually pass this examination. They're all up to date, so the ball is in your court. All the details are down there. Feel free to check them out as well. That is the main thing. Whilst you're down there as well, make sure you give this a massive like so that more ACCA students around the world can see my free materials on here. And as well, like I said, just leave me a comment like Militia did. I'll be more than happy to respond if you've got any questions, whatever it may be. Right, I'm going to head over to the main screen now, get comfy, pen and paper at the ready, and let's get stuck into some ACCA financial management materials. Okay, on 3 and 2 and 1 and go. So let's start to go through the 7 key syllabus areas for your upcoming financial management. That's the F9 exam paper. These are taken directly from the ACCA syllabus. I'm going to run you through, plus give you some insights, short, sharp, clear and concise. I'm down here at the bottom, all the key information is there up at the top. We'll go through all the points and then I'll add on top of it the key insights that you need to be aware of. So first of all, as you can see on the screen, we've got the nature and purpose of financial management. So this is if you were a financial manager yourself, what you would be doing. The financial objectives and relationship with corporate strategy. So this is where you'll need to be applying the scenario that you're given in the exam to the requirement. That is a key concept. We'll come on to at the end of this video, because what I've also done for you is a special bonus slide as to key ACCA financial management exam tips that I'd be implementing if I was in your shoes to pass. Now, coming on to point 3 on here for the first area of the syllabus, we've got stakeholders and impact on corporate objectives. So you need to be breaking that down into 2 areas, especially in your discussions. This is where the external gets frustrated that students only talk about one area of stakeholders. You need to be talking about internal and external. So trying to develop that into your exam strategy. And then 40 on here, financial and other objectives in not-for-profit organisations. So how are they actually looking to maybe benefit the environment? What are the social issues that a company may be looking to implement? And this is where the decision making of a financial manager comes into it, because they interact with various other areas. So management accounting, financial accounting on top of it. In terms of the actual nature and purpose, the 3 key areas that you need to be aware of going into your exam are the actual investing decisions, financing decisions, and distribution decisions. So what do we mean by investing decisions? Well, if we're actually a financial manager and we're running and being part of a global business, well, we may be actually looking to invest in non-current assets. Then you've got to say, well, why are we going to invest in, say, non-current assets, for example? Well, then we've got to say, okay, is it going to generate economic benefit for the business in the long run? Otherwise, why are we going to purchase it? That then links on to the financing basis, and this is the balance that you need to be aware of for your examination as to how much debt, how much equity do we have in the business, what are we leveraging, and then also on top of it, you've got to talk about the gearing as well. This is where you have ratio analysis, which we'll come on to in a later slide. Finally, when it comes on to distribution now, the other factor I mentioned there, at the end of the day, you're going to make potentially, hopefully, for the business, profits. And then you've got a decision to make. Well, should we retain it in the business or should we actually distribute it in dividends? And this is where dividend theory comes into it, and also, especially for the financial management module, bringing into account your management accounting skills and knowledge from previous ACCA exams, and also financial accounting and financial reporting that are really, really key. So if you've still got those books to hand and your old notes, make sure you have them, because the financial manager and the role and how it interacts with other areas of a business, such as the management accounting, financial accounting, board of directors, this is all really critical and key. It links into the corporate strategy, how we're trying to drive the business on forward, and linking into those stakeholders, as we said. Now, coming on to area 2, the financial management environment on here. So you've got the economic environment, first of all, to kick off for a business. You've then got the nature and role of financial markets and institutions, and the nature and role of money markets here. Okay, so you've got to break it down as to say, well, from being a financial manager now, you've got to actually open up your mind to think, well, am I working for a multinational company? What is the scenario basing this on? And you have to consider the microeconomic factors and the macroeconomic factors. So you have to consider, especially for financial markets and institutions, understanding and going away from this actual lecture, maybe considering, am I aware of what an index fund is? Am I aware of what the FTSE 100 or the S&P 500 is as well? So again, key things to note down on here. And money markets, what sort of supply do we have to the markets itself? This really links into everything from dividend policy, interest rates on there as well, which is highly mentioned. We'll come on to it later on as well, on top of it. And then the economic environment for business on here. So what sort of contracts are we going into in the future? Also, when we'll come on to investment appraisal, NPV, cash flows, working capital management, it really flows into different areas that you need to understand how a financial market operates, and the external factors that potentially it could be different policies from governments. This has impacts on your trade, your agreements. There's a variety of different areas that you need to be aware of. You're going through your core text. And also, just to mention, you as the financial manager making a decision, especially for this part of the syllabus area, you could get this in a requirement, but it's a case of understanding what's going on and actually what the examiner is asking for. And then also on top of that, it is applying. That is the key thing here, applying the requirement to what is in the scenario. And that is where you're going to score really good marks. I did just touch on working capital management, another key area in the financial management exam. And just to go through nice and quickly on here, the nature and elements and importance of working capital, the key factors and the key areas, so inventory, accounts receivable, accounts payable and cash, and determining working capital needs and funding strategies. So just to give you an insight as to areas that I think are absolutely fundamental here that you need to know about. So first thing to jot down, the nature and elements and importance of working capital. And this is all about how the cash flow comes into the business and leaves the business. Also about what we can control as a financial manager that we have in our armory to help out the working capital management on a day-to-day basis. If we don't get the working capital correctly done with good cash flow management, you've got to start to think, especially for the financial management exam, what is the worst case scenario? And the worst case scenario is that the company could miss out on some of its cash payments, so its short-term liabilities. Then on top of that, it could go into potential liquidation. And then finally, if we really run out of cash, sell off all of our non-current assets. So this is where your financial accounting knowledge comes into it. We could actually have the nail in the coffin and the business go bankrupt. So this is where for point 2, managing the inventories, because if you've made inventory, and this is where you need to be aware of the current ratio, the quick ratio, the ratios which I'm going to talk about now are not given to you, the formulas in the exam. You have to know these, as to saying, well, the higher the amount of number of days of inventory turnover days means that, well, that means that there's more inventory sat on the shelves, the warehouses of our business for a longer period of time. The inventory sat there, think about it for your notes that cash is tied up in inventory. Same with accounts receivable. These are customers that owe us money. The cash is outside of the business as it stands. We need to actually work out some strategies to actually recoup that amount coming back in, and it could be aspects such as offering a small discount or actually chasing them up on a more timely basis. Versus, on the other hand, we have accounts payable. So this is where we owe money to suppliers now. So can we come up with an agreement with our suppliers that we pay them back in 30 days, 60 days? Or, again, the flip side of this, if we pay earlier, maybe we could get a discount on top of it. But this is where the management of the cash at the end of the day comes down to it, that you need to be aware of, well, what does a business pay in cash on a daily, weekly basis? So this is everything from paying its staff and employees, paying the running costs of the business as well. And without these costs being incurred, the business would not function. This is where you'll see in your core text, and I've put all the text in the bottom of this video as well, so you can check out the up-to-date ones I recommend, that cash is king, okay? Cash is king within a business. It's the lifeblood of a business. And then that links into the funding strategies as to say, well, should we actually offer out a share exchange? Are we going to go for potential loans as a result? And this is where the syllabus areas overlap, that if you're going to take on a loan, you've got to consider the gearing, which is going to increase your interest payments. And this is where you need to think about especially the theories in financial management, such as Miliana and Miller, and the traditional view, which we'll come on to later on. But more importantly now, syllabus area 4, and investment appraisal is a key area where you've got investment appraisal techniques. We've got inflation, taxation, you need to be aware of. DCF refers to discounted cash flows on there, and adjusting for risk and uncertainty in investment appraisal. Specific investment decisions, so leasing, buying, asset replacement, and capital rationing on here. So let's just break it down from the key areas that you need to know. Investment appraisal techniques, okay, techniques now, you've got some that consider the time value of money and some that don't. So ones that do consider the time value of money, like NPV, IRR, you've got to get really good with how you are comfortable in calculating it, laying it out, and showing to the marker what you actually are referring to, and what does your answer actually mean, because you want to describe and discuss it. You then have other investment appraisal techniques you need to know how to calculate, like the payback, the ARR as well, the average rate of return. These don't take into account the time value of money, but you need to know the pros and cons of each of the different methods. NPV is deemed to be the most superior one. It takes into account all the cash flows, time value of money, and also you can link it into IRR as well through interpolation. Inflation and taxation in there, so this is taking into account the wider economic factors on top of it. Good thing to note on here as well is you need to be familiar with the discount tables. Now, if you don't know what the discount tables are, if you go onto ACCA's website, I can put the link in the description below. It's where you're given the discounted factor tables, which you need to be applying in an investment appraisal examination question, which they have been tested before. So you need to be confident it's going to come with exam practice. But if I was in your shoes and you can't do all the investment appraisal techniques before your financial management exam, well, you're going to go in at a disadvantage, I'm afraid, because this is where the risks and uncertainty in investment appraisal comes into it. So what's the likelihood of a project? Some may be more riskier than others. You may be given different options as well, because then this is where you've got aspects like, should we replace the asset, should we not? Capital rationing, just to note down there, is that we may have a budget of 5,000 where is the actual project divisible or not? Could we have, in some questions you're allowed to ration it, some you're not. So would we have to actually invest in the full amount, or could we invest in maybe 75% of it or 50%? If you can ration, great. If you can't, then it's either you pay the full amount or you don't pay the full amount. That's the way it goes. But you'll see that when you go through your core tax. But it's just to give you an overview for the aspects on here. And then finally, saying from whatever you've calculated, apply it back to that requirement, answer the full thing, because you usually within the financial management exam for investment appraisal, it's calculate and analyse, or calculate and describe. That is one of the key factors that you need to be aware of. Coming on to syllabus area 5 now, so we've got business and finance, or business finance should we say. So sources of and raising business finance, cost of capital. Again, cost of capital would have been used within investment appraisal. That links into the discounted cash flows. Sources of finance, their costs, capital structure, so the relationship between debt and equity, and then finance for small and medium-sized entities. But coming back to raising of business finance, this is where you can have everything from angel investors to going and getting a bank loan. Also, if we're looking at shares as well, are we going to have a rights issue? There are lots of different factors to bear in mind. Maybe we're only going to offer out shares to a certain group of people. Then this is going to factor into the actual cost of capital. So you need to be really confident on using aspects such as the weighted average cost of capital on here. You've got CAPM you need to be aware of. Also, another key thing to note down is, I talked about it before with the discounted cash flow tables on the ACCA website, you're also given a formula sheet in there as well. This is where some of the aspects for cost of capital workings on here fall under it, and the relevant costs associated with it as to, well, should we go down this route, should we go down that route. Capital structure theories, you need to be aware of Miliana and Miller. You've got the traditional view on there. There are a few others in terms of dividend policy as well, how we actually predict it. Then linking into also dividend theory as well, and the price of shares. So it does overlap a variety of areas here. And the capital structure theories link into saying, well, are we actually benefiting from the debt tax shield, that when we take on debt, we actually get a reduction in our profits on top of that. So we actually fall into a benefit there of benefiting from the debt tax shield. But if we take on too much debt, well, this is where the business could go into financial distress, where liquidation and potential bankruptcy comes into play on here. So the cost of capital is factored in. Think about the scale of the business, and again, judge it on the scenario you're given in the exam. What's the size? What's the type of industry? What's the type of sector? These are all key things that you could describe and write about in your exam. That will gain you marks as well, because we've got small and medium-sized entities. Availability of cash is another key area, and another thing to note down is an organically grown company. So this is where it's 100% equity owned, and maybe they're looking at getting into debt, where you could get asked on a theory-based question, is debt deemed to be cheaper than equity? Where you can refer to a variety of things we've talked about on here, and you'll see in your core text as well. So lovely stuff. Coming on to key area number 6 now for business valuations. And just to give you a nice little overview again, you've got the nature and purpose of valuing a business and its financial assets on here. So linking into what's the net realisable value. Also, if we're looking to actually sell the business or potentially acquire another business, then if we're going to acquire one or sell it, we've got to value those shares. So again, linking into that formula sheet that you'll have available in your examination, make sure you've done, and get this noted down, a question based on every single formula before you go into your examination. Check out the past papers, you'll see some in the core text, they're definitely going to help you out. We've also got to look at the valuation of debt and other financial assets. So how much is that going to be balanced on the balance sheet, and how is it impacting on how are we leveraging potentially debt as well, specifically for the role of a financial manager? How can we work out our cash flow management to say, could we take on a bit more debt to finance this new NPV project through the NPV we've calculated, or should we actually go about that project by raising more share capital? So it's just to give you an insight as to how many of the topics in financial management overlap as well. Efficient market hypothesis on here. So this is where you've got weak, semi-strong and strong information, all about what information do you have available to actually value those shares. So is it publicly available, or is it non-public, or are we basing it on previous information? So if it's based on previous information, that is deemed to be weak. If it is semi-strong, then this is publicly available information, so it's in the annual reports that you may see on the news and other sources. And then on top of that, where you've got strong, okay, so strong efficient market hypothesis, that is public and non-public on there. So linking it into, well, do you have any other sort of insights? But this is where you have to know and be aware of other things such as insider trading on top of it as well, and what information you can benefit from in your power, should we say, potentially if you're actually as a on the board of directors. This is also a good time to mention about share schemes as well. So how do we actually keep our board of directors on, and also thinking about agency theory, that the board of directors have got one idea in their mind as to, well, okay, if I'm part of the board of directors and business valuations comes into it here now as well, I want my bonus at the end of the day, plus my basic salary, but maybe I can be put into a share scheme that will keep me at the company for a longer period of time. So if I'm at a company for a longer period of time and I get shares in that as well, obviously I want it to go up. So I'm aligning my values to what the business wants. And this is where agency theory comes into it, because if you're a shareholder, on the other hand, you want, and this is a really key phrase in financial management, shareholder wealth maximization. Okay, that is one of the key fundamental things, that if you and I were shareholders in the same company, we want two things. Shareholder wealth maximization means dividends to go up and share price to go up. And by actually working out and understanding agency theory that can be tested within financial management, this is where we align those core values, and it's a win-win situation for both parties that you need to be aware of on here. Finally, for syllabus area 7 now, so we're looking at risk management, and this is the nature and types of risk and approaches to risk management, causes of exchange rate differences, interest rate fluctuations, hedging, foreign currency risk, and interest rate risk on top of it. So you've got to be aware of aspects such as derivatives on top of this. You've got to have a good knowledge of swaps. Key thing to note down here is you won't be tested on them for calculations, but you will have to actually describe what they are actually referring to and base it back on the scenario. Now, with risk management and relating it to foreign currency, this is where we have potentially a forward rate contract, or should we actually delay holding off making a payment? Could we actually put the transaction into our home currency? What about the translation risks associated with it, that maybe we have an overseas subsidiary in euros and our parent company is at home in pounds, so there could be a translation risk there. And what we want at the end of the day is for the business to show a true and fair view of the actual accounts. But this is all relating back to the role of the financial manager and how they actually approach risk management. What do they have in their control that they could manage to implement in the business to lower that risk? Okay, so making sure that you're really comfortable, especially with the interest rate fluctuations. There are a variety of different technicalities on there, but what I have done for you as well is I'll put in the description below where you can access some of the articles on there that will help you out, because if there's anything up-to-date and topical, it usually falls into the risk management syllabus area. Can also link into other areas such as bribery as well on top of it, and ethical areas that you need to be considering for financial management. So those are the key 7 areas of the actual syllabus that you need to be aware of, okay? But I thought I'd pop on a bonus slide, whilst having a nice chat on here, as to if I had to do the financial management exam tomorrow, next week, whatever it may be, what are the key sort of areas, just to keep it short and concise, and what you must be able to do upon completion of your financial management module? Well, the time strategy is always a fundamental area, as to you've got to work out what is best for you. Maybe you're doing the computer-based examination on there, I've put on for point 3, getting used to the format with the actual with the formulas on there, okay, and then the PV factor tables, especially linking into investment appraisal. You've got to be comfortable with whatever question you could be thrown at. You can actually utilize the format effectively. Have a go at the actual practice format on ACCA's website. Go through the study text first, and then it will highlight for you on the ACCA platform what areas you need to improve on. The actual exam technique where people fall down, especially for financial management, is applying back to the scenario the core knowledge. So as we walk through this syllabus overview, as I'm sure you can see, that there are many areas that overlap with one another, and it's that overlapping core foundation knowledge of financial management. If you can take that knowledge and apply it to the scenario and the requirement given in your exam, then you've got a really, really good chance of passing on here. With the time strategy, again, it's going to come down to most people I find with the financial management exam, because of the broadness of what you could be tested on, there are a variety of areas such as Islamic finance, again, you could be tested on here, that I'd always try and start with a question. So review the actual exam as you go through, check out the requirements, and pick out the one you are most confident on to start with. Sticking to 1.8 minutes per mark on there, and that's a really good guide, but go for one that you are confident, build up some momentum at the start of the exam, and then tackle the more sort of challenging ones later on, I would say. But get those early marks in the bank first of all. As you can see, there are a variety of different areas, but the fundamentals don't change as to question practice, past papers, and especially the CBE format, doing them to time, sat down, all focus, going through those core areas, and finally on here, show all of your workings. That is the key thing that the external examiner notes in their reports quite a lot of the time, especially with the CBE format, because lots of people just put down some numbers, but they don't tell the marker where they've come from. So they don't get the workings, and they don't get any carried forward marks to say, well, if you got the first figure wrong, I can give you carry forward marks going through if you follow the right process. But if you don't tell me the process and indicate it with some narrative, then you really are struggling on that. Now, if you've made it to this part of the video, then thank you. But there is one other key thing. In the link down below, I've actually gone into these core topic areas and the exam tips in a lot more detail, all broken down from my experience on there. If you click the link down there, you can go check it out as well. It just goes into some of the key areas and the key concepts that you can play back anytime to benefit you as well. But I hope you found that hopeful. But let's head back onto the main screen now for some final points. Well, Shuru, Militia, everyone else who's watching around the world, I hope those tips, I hope those insights from the whole financial management syllabus help you out to pass your upcoming financial management exam. If you have made it to this part of the video, you've got so much value out of that, so I would really appreciate if you give it a massive like below so that more ACCA students can see this free material. Also, feel free to subscribe to get access to all of my free videos, and as well, just leave me a comment at the bottom if you want me to cover any particular topics of the syllabus or any other financial management areas, for example. Whilst you're down there as well, all the details for resources and other links I provided for you, go check them out. The ball is in your court, completely up to you. It's all designed to help you pass your upcoming financial management exam. That is the key main thing. Well, the last thing I can say is best of luck with your upcoming exam. Let me know how you get on. Leave me a comment below how the exam goes. What I've also done for you as well is I've left a couple of videos at the end here. If you click one of them, they are definitely going to help you study a lot better and help you pass. But as always on that bombshell, I'll see you next time. Cheers.